Hey everybody, so the next feature upgrade that we'll do is the GIF icon. So this will be a fun one. First, let's take a look at how Twitter does that. So if you click on the GIF icon, notice how a modal window comes up. There are different categories which we'll ignore for our example. What we'll focus on is the search bar. Notice there is no button, so there is no click to search button. Rather, it focuses on your key presses. So we're going to try to do that for the first functionality. The second functionality will be the toggle switch. So notice how it's switched. It basically changes each of the image tag's source attribute to have a different image, and vice versa. So that's the second thing we'll try to do. The third thing is when you click on an image, the modal window disappears and you have the image appearing in the tweet area. So that is that. All right, so first off, in Blackboard, whichever zip file you choose to work with, if you click on the GIF icon, it should automatically open a modal window for you. I know last week I forgot to do that with the emoji for the first couple of students that handed in their stuff, which I then corrected in Blackboard. So let's figure out how to do this using just big words or big ideas. So let's create a file just like last week called gifs.js, which we will also import. So let's go in our JS index.js and import star as, and we'll call it whatever we want, from gifs.js. So there we go, that's done. So here, in big ideas, what we want to do. So we're assuming already that the user has clicked here. So we want user to type in a keyword, then GIFs are fetched, then displayed. That's functionality number one. Functionality number two is user optionally can click on toggle, which makes GIFs still images and vice versa. And finally, user can click to select a GIF, and that is then inserted into tweet area. So those are the three big functionalities of what we want to do. So then the next thing is, let's tackle this first one, is ask yourself, how are you going to do that? All right, so this one here, let's focus on this. User to type in a keyword. So what does that involve? Well, that involves key events. So we have to listen for key events for the keyword search box. Let's just tackle that first. And then once we've done that, we can search for stuff. Now, even as I typed that sentence, another question came up. Do we want to search immediately after each key press? Or should we wait a second until user has finished typing to then search? What do you think? I think for now, we should try the simpler version of just fetching after each key press, but I definitely want to try the latter, harder version after that. Okay, so let's figure this out. So we have to listen for key events in this box here. And you may have noticed or may have learned that one way to do that, say, is window add event listener, keyup, and I already have it here. So if I say enter, we just told the whole window to listen for key events, and if so, it'll do something. So let's see what happens if I try to tweet something. As you can see here, it's firing, but the question is, do I want to do that? Do I care about that? And the answer is no. I only care about that if they're in here in the input box. So really, I don't want to listen to the whole window. I really only want to listen to the input box. So maybe I'll replace the window with the input box and continue as always, and it should be okay. Let's see if we can figure that out. So let's query select this input box. What are we going to target? We're going to target the ID here. So we're going to query select the ID here. Let's test out our theory. Okay, and then we can add an event listener of keyup. Okay, I already have that there. Enter. Let's see if this works. So as before, let me type something here. Let's see. Aha, see, the console doesn't say anything. But if I open up the modal and say the same thing, perfect. Great. So this is the correct line of code to listen for the key events for that particular search box. So let's just put that there, and maybe we'll just divide it up properly kind of thing. Const keyword equals that, and then keyword dot that is that. So let's just make sure that's still working. Let's go back here, test it out. Nothing. Perfect. Okay. Now that is, we have to listen for key events. Yes. Okay. And okay, so there. Next one is this. Then GIFs are fetched. So let's do that. Then, and now that we are listening for key events, let's go ahead and fetch the GIFs based on what was typed. Now it's giving me a red squiggly line because the comment's too long. All right, here we go. So first of all, this assumes that we know how to get what was typed. And so let's just do the easy thing first. Let's just create a function here that says, once you've typed in something, go ahead and run a function called getGifs. Let's define that function up here, function getGifs. Okay. Now, unlike last week where we just used fetch, let's use the async await and fetch for this time around. Okay, async await fetch. We'll put in the URL in a second, but let me just finish this line of code. Const response equals that, then const data equals await res.json, and then finally we can log the data just to make sure it's right. Okay, then for this one, URL, we have to look at the documentation for a second. So in the documentation, you'll see docs here, quick start guide, search endpoint, that here is the URL that they give. So if we copy that URL, and then maybe we'll paste it to a new tab, and then you need these two requirements. So this parameter you need, so let's put that here. So you need a question mark to separate the website from the query parameters. Then you paste in your left-hand side and then put equal sign and paste in your right-hand side. Now this key here you can get from your dashboard. So it'll be unique for every person. And then finally the other requirement is the Q. So notice here my browser has already remembered the Q equals some kind of word. And notice I'm attaching both query parameters with an ampersand. So if you click on enter, it should give JSON, and there it is. So now that you figured out the right URL, let's go ahead and paste that here. Keep in mind that we probably want to make this a variable, otherwise it'll keep on searching happy GIFs, and we probably want to also maybe to make this a variable too. Okay, so let's see what if this works. Let's see here. So let's click on this. So upon key press, it should do something. A. Perfect. And it got all that data. Look at that. Oh, 50. Whoa. Whoa. All right. Actually, you know what? I don't really want 50. I just want a few. And I believe there's an optional limit here. So I could say limit 12, for example, and it'll give me just 12. So let's just do that. And just for developmental purposes. All right, let's try that. 12, perfect. Okay, now what's the next big idea? Let's go ahead. Yeah, we fetched. Okay, and then we have to display it, right? So that's the next thing, displaying it. So let's figure out how to display it. To display it, we need to first target an area where to display. Then we can inner HTML to it, kind of thing. So let's examine the HTML. If I click on here, let's examine this modal's HTML. Somewhere in this modal is an area that I have previously put in. There it is. Div ID browse GIF. So it'll all go in there. So let's let's document query selector in there. And now let's say here, I like to put all my constants usually up top. Const browse GIFs equals document.query selector browse GIFs. Okay, so now that we got that div tag, we can say browse GIFs dot inner HTML equals. Now I'm going to use a dot map here, but dot map needs an array, and we don't have an array right now. Well, we kind of do. I mean, it's in there somewhere. Maybe what we should do is take the array. Hold on, is it still here? No. Let's log this. Let's comment this out for a second and log out this data just to look at it again. Okay, let's look at this. So right now, our word data, as represented here, equals this whole object. But I don't want this whole object, I just want the array, which means it's data dot data in order to get this array. Okay, so let's say, let's make a const gifs here. Now, in the past, I've put the array kind of up top, so kind of globally, right? But this time around, I'm going to do something different just to show you that you can do this. Not necessarily that this is best practice, but you can if you want to. I mean, if you look at Chapter's website, you'll see they use all kinds of data-attributes to store their state. So we'll try the same technique as well for this time around. So we want an array, and we want it coming from data. However, if we just do this, this will give us one huge array inside our array. So we don't want that. We want an array of various elements, so we need to spread it out. Okay, so let's log that out, make sure we have the right data. Perfect. So we now have the data. Okay, so this gives another question. Like, we should really pay attention to the structure of each individual object that's being offered here, because if you look at the actual object, it's basically the same GIF over and over, just in different sizes and resolutions, just for your needs, right? So if you click on this original one here, you'll see that it's like very large, looks like that. Okay, but then further down, you'll have like a fixed height small version, which is smaller, which is great for like our preview panel. So I'm going to use the small version here. And look at this, they even have a fixed height small still, which is the still version. So this is what we're going to use for the toggle later on. So what we need to do is we would just want to target this URL right here under the fixed height small. So how do we get there? Because this is one huge thing, right? So so here it is. So gifs.map, and for each GIF, we're going to return a string of HTML, and that string will be basically just be an image tag whose source attribute we'll figure in a second. Okay, and so this is where we have to figure out, the find the gold. This is find the gold all over again. So if each GIF represents one of these objects here, it'll be, so we have to say GIF dot here, right? Because all the images are stored in here. So we have to say gif.images. So it really pays to know how to navigate through objects, right? Dot images dot what? We don't want original, we don't want downsize, we want the fixed height small, I think, yeah. Right? So we have to say fixed height small, and then the URL. the URL. Okay, let's see if that works. So, perfect. Let's close this up for a second. Wonderful. Now if I continue typing, W for aw. Oh, that's interesting. Another thing I noticed that there's commas here between each one. So I forgot the dot join, and there's a logic error. I should be seeing something different if I type in something else. So first of all, let's take care of the dot join. Dot join. So that should remove the commas, and it does. Oh, you know what? I know what's happening. It's always searching for happy because it's hard-coded. We never even made that a variable yet. So let's make that a variable. So let's take out happy, replace it with template literal, but based on my syntax highlighting, I can already tell that's not going to work because I need backticks there. That should work. So in here, we need to grab the value of what was typed. So how do you grab that? Well, let's look at the input box here and see if there's an ID. There it is, keywords. So if we say, by the way, I'm going to give you a little dirty secret here. If you see any HTML element with an ID of anything, you could actually just use that. You don't have to document query select that. Watch this. Keyword dot value. And let me just type in here something. Enter. Look at that. So I can just say keyword.value right there, and that should work. Let's see if that works. Sad. Good. Now if I say happy, yay. If I say awesome. Very good. Great. So I think that is functionality number 1 achieved. Next video, we'll tackle the toggle.